Alright, let's move forward with the file inclusion room here on TryHackMe. In the previous video, I've done the first part of this room. Please excuse the background noise, but it is what it is. So in the first part of this video, we've done the first four tasks, and I had an issue with this question over here. Give lab1 a try to read @c password. What would the request URI be? And I've answered it correctly, but for some reason it wouldn't take the answer. And the reason was, and I figured it out immediately after I stopped this video, was the fact that Bitdefender, my antivirus, was actually interfering, and it didn't actually allow for that input to go through. So it appears that Bitdefender actually checks or tries to protect against malicious input submissions or requests. Regardless, I'm going to try to finish the rest of the 5, 6, 7, and 8 tasks in this video, but if I'm not able to do it, we'll just have to, if I'm not actually able to do it in the ballpark of 20 to 25 minutes, I'm actually going to have to do it in another video, which is not an issue. So if you're actually looking at this video and you're learning a lot, please make sure to share this video with everyone around on social media, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever, on Discord, because this actually motivates me to keep on with these videos. Like I said, and like I keep saying it in all of the videos, I'm actually doing this in my free time, and there's nothing in it for me. So failed to connect to the server. The hell is this? We're gonna try to terminate the machine and then start the attack box, terminate this one, start the machine, and proceed further with task number 5. In this task, so again, share the video everywhere. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna have to stop doing these videos. In this task, and like I said, I'm going to add my own twist to the videos because there have probably been other people before me who've done TryHackMe walkthroughs. But the thing is that I'm actually adding my own twist from my own experience as a penetration tester. In this task, we go a little bit deeper into LFI. We discussed a couple of techniques. Let me just make sure that I'm recording here and everything is alright. So, a couple of techniques to bypass the filter within the include function. In the first two cases, we checked the code for the web app and then we knew how to exploit it. However, in this case, we're performing black box testing, so this actually means that you don't know what you're dealing with in terms of code, in which we don't have the source code. Exactly what I said. In this case, errors are significant in understanding how the data is passed and processed into the web app. So this is a very good point. Whenever you're actually testing an input or some issue or a web application, when you're doing black box testing, one of your first and most important priorities is to actually try to break that application, try to accept or try to see how it handles input that it should not handle, such as interesting characters, such as illegal characters, and so on and so forth. In this scenario, we have the following entry point, blah blah blah. If we enter an invalid input such as THM, so this actually expects some sort of like two-letter acronym for a certain language, such as ENARGB, like DE, and so on and so forth. ESFR. No such warning. Include languages. Failed to open stream. No such file or directory in var thm4 index php on line 12. So it tells us exactly where it actually failed. The error message discloses significant information by entering THM as input, so there's no language abbreviated as THM. An error message shows what the include function looks like. So include languages, it tells us include languages doesn't work. because there probably is an en.php and an ar.php. If you look at the directory closely, we can tell the function includes files in the languages directory, is adding .php at the end of the entry. Thus, the valid input will be something as follows, where the en is located inside the given languages directory and named en.php. Also, the error message disclosed another important piece of information about the full web application directory path. Exactly, var html thm4. To exploit this, we need to use the // trick as described in the directory traversal section to get out of the current folder. Let's try the following. So you're trying the following. Know that we use 4 sequences of // because we know the path has 4 levels. So it comes out of the THM with 1 // it comes out of the HTML, or it goes up the HTML with another // then another // then another // and now we are actually in the root directory. In this case, failed to OpenStream no such file or directory in blah blah blah. It seems we could move out of the PHP directory, but still the include function reads the input with .php at the end, so it actually tries to add a PHP at the etc password. This tells us that the developer specifies the file type to pass to include the include function. To bypass this scenario, we can use the null byte, which actually is added at the end. Using null bytes is an injection technique where URL encoded representations such as percentage double zeros or hex 00 in hex with user supply data to terminate the strings. You could think of it as trying to trick the web app into disregarding. So in this case, you would actually add a %00 at the end of etc password. The include function to ignore adding after the null byte, which may look like, so in this case, if you input this, so // with etc password %00, it's actually going to ignore everything that follows the 00. So even though it will be adding a .php afterwards, after your input is passed, it is actually going to ignore that because you have the null byte. Sometimes, more often than not these days, null byte doesn't work, but if you're dealing with custom applications, you might still be successful in trying to exploit this trick. The %00 trick is fixed, and not working with PHP 5.3.4 and above, as I said. Now apply what we showed in lab 3 and try to read etc password, answer question 1. In this, let's actually do that, because there is a lot of reading right now. Where was it? Where was the application? Is it available at, let's actually try localhost 127.0.0.1. I can't actually remember where the application was. Alright, so it's probably here. 10.10.55.91. Alright, so lab number 3. We are over here. So what we need to include is // etc password %00. How many of them? So it's exactly 1, 2, 3, 4. That's exactly what I did. So 1234 etc password %00. So it's actually lab, again, /lab 3.php question mark file equals //// etc password. Brace yourself and see whether or not Bitdefender is gonna scream. Submit. Okay. Which function is causing the directory traversal in a lab 4? Let's go back. One more, lab 4. Let's actually do some invalid input. File get contents. There's a lot of noise outside, but it is what it is, like I said. So it's file get contents, I believe. So the function is file underscore get contents. That's the one. Alright, let's actually, in this section, so let's actually proceed like sequentially. In this section, the developer decided to filter keywords to avoid disclosing sensitive information. The etc password file is being filtered. There are two possible methods to bypass the filter. First, by using the null byte or the current directory trick at the end of the filtered keywords. So in this case, this exploit would be similar to exactly this. So you're adding a current directory in Linux environments. So for those of you who are familiar with Linux environments and the terminal, you know that this is the current directory /dot. To make it clear, if we try this concept in the file system using cd ... it will get you back one step. However, if you do cd ... it actually stays in the current directory. Similarly, if you try etc password ... it results to be etc because you're trying to get etc password and then you're supplying / and then going back one step before, which is going back into the etc, and that's because we've moved one to the root, so in the direction of the root. Now if we try etc password / dot, the result would be etc password, since dot refers to the current directory. This is an interesting trick. So in this case, etc password dot, and we get it. We get the content of the etc password. This is lab 4. We need to go to lab 6. Next, in the following scenarios, the developer starts to use input validation by filtering some keywords. Let's test out and check the error message. So in this case, we got the following error. If you're trying the ... with etc password ... / 4 times, failed to open stream no such file or directory. If we check the warning message, we know that the web application replaces the ... with empty strings. So this is actually, they're trying to use filters in this case. So they're actually filtering out the ... /. There are a couple of techniques we can use to bypass this. Of course, you can double do it, and this often works. So you're doing ... //. This works because the PHP filter only matches and replaces the first one, so the first subset. So if you're diligent as a developer, you'll try to find ways to circumvent, to actually come up with solutions for all of these potential evading tricks, so to speak. Try out lab 5 and try to read etc password and bypass this filter. So we need to go back to lab 5 and use ... //, copy that 4 times, Control C, Control V, 3, 4, etc // password, and it works. Finally, we'll discuss the case where the developer forces the include to read from a defined directory. For example, if the web application asks to supply input that has to include a directory such as this one, then to exploit this, we need to include the directory in the payload like so. Lang equals languages, so in this case, you need to actually be even more specific. You need to try this out in lab 6. Try out lab 6 and check what is the directory that has to be in the input field. Let's say @c, let's say dot 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 @c/password. We are not given any hint here. So if we do languages, probably languages is the directory that they're talking about. Dot 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 @c/password. So it's actually languages equals, I believe. Yes or no? Try out lab 6 and check what is the directory that has to be in the input field. First off, we need to make the application give us an error. Do we? Of course, the answer is incorrect. So what is exactly that I'm missing here? Lab 6 and what the directory is. So again, dot dot. There's something that I'm missing here. So you actually need to exploit this, you need to include the directory in the payload like so. Would it exactly be verbatim? So for example, question mark lang equals languages dot 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 yes or no? Allowed files at the THM profile only. What if we do, in this case, en question mark lang equals, let's first actually try to get the application, languages en, try to get the applications to spit out some error. The developer forces the include to read from a defined directory. And this is the defined directory. Languages en include the file in the input form below. Do we actually need to specify it with lang equals languages double everything? So 1, 2, 3, and the 4. Etsy password. Nope. What about like this? Nope. What about like... So this is actually how you try to get to the bottom of it, by trying things out. Do we not have a hint over here? Try out lab 6 and check what is the directory that has to be in the input field. What is it that I'm missing here? Do we have any write-ups? There are no write-ups. So file inclusion, try hack me, write-up. So it's not the point of actually showing my skills here, which are not the best for file inclusion, but to actually learn something. And the point is not to make this video extensively longer and me trying to actually... Alright, so the answer was actually right in front of your nose. It says check what is the directory that has to be in the input field. In this case, the directory is the THM profile, if I'm not mistaken. Try out lab 6 and read Etsy OS. So we are 22 minutes in and might not be able to finish this in 25 minutes. And read Etsy OS. What is the version ID? So in this case, let's actually say that you have to specify THM underscore profile and then move back 1, 2, 3, 4 Etsy OS release. Right, so that actually works because I've looked it up in the write-up. So what is the value? 12.4. Remote file inclusion is a technique to include remote files and into a vulnerable application. Like LFI, the RFI occurs when improperly sanitizing user input, allowing an attacker to inject an external URL into the include function. When improperly sanitizing user input. So yeah, that is correct from an English standpoint. I thought it wasn't. The grammar police was here. One requirement for RFI is that the allow URL f open option needs to be on. The risk of RFI is higher than LFI since RFI vulnerabilities allows an attacker to gain remote command execution. Not always, but most of the times. And it's actually context dependent, because if you get remote code execution with a very, very low privileged user, it might be very hard to pivot or to escalate your privileges. Other consequences of a successful RFI attack include sensitive information disclosure, cross-site scripting, and denial of service. Out of many, an external server must communicate with the application server for a successful RFI attack, where the attacker hosts malicious files on the server. Then the malicious file is injected into the include function by HTTP requests, and the content of the malicious file executes on the vulnerable application server. So this is how it works. The attacker injects the file parameter here with the location of its desired file that wants to get on the server. What actually happens is that the server gets, so this is number 2, the server gets this file and it actually loads it or sends the content of cmd.txt, and it actually injects that content into the function. So in this case, we have to, the cmd.txt should be a PHP file, and it actually is, as we see here, echo hello thm. And this actually sends back the results of the execution within the get PHP page. And in this case, it's just going to display a message hello thm. The following figure is an example of the steps for a successful RFI attack. Let's say that the attacker hosts a PHP file on the server which is obfuscated or hidden or like masked as cmd.txt, which where cmd.txt is actually a PHP file that contains a printing message hello thm. And this actually explains what I've explained to you previously. Now in this case, we copy that, or we just simply bypass the playground.php. And in this case, we showed how to include the PHP pages via RFI. Do research on how to get remote command execution and answer the question in the challenge section, which is the one over here. Yeah, so I believe that we should do, let's actually go through the remediation and then do the challenge in another video. So in this situation, as a developer, it's important to be aware of the web application vulnerabilities, how to find them, and prevention methods. Now, to prevent file inclusion vulnerabilities, so blue teamers mark these words: keep systems and services, including web app frameworks, updated with the latest version. Most importantly, turn off PHP errors to avoid leaking the path of the application, as we've seen in the examples previously. A web application firewall is a good option to help mitigate web application attacks. It's a must. Disable some PHP features that cause file inclusion vulnerabilities if your web app doesn't need them, such as allow URL fopen and allow URL include. And you should be looking for other PHP features that may cause file inclusions on your web search engine. Carefully analyze the web application and allow only protocols and PHP wrappers that are in need. Never trust user input, and make sure to implement proper input validation, not only validation but also sanitization against file inclusion. Implement whitelist for file names. So it's better to implement whitelist than blacklists. And as a solution of compromise, you could implement both whitelist and blacklist, but I would go with whitelisting first for file names and locations. That being said, we are going to finish this room in the next video.